And tonight, a key component of President Biden's plan to ramp up vaccinations for COVID-19 facing a very critical test at the U.S. Supreme Court. The justices heard an extraordinary 4 hours of arguments today over whether the government has the power to impose vaccine mandates or vaccine or testing requirements on tens of millions of American workers. It's a pivotal moment for the pandemic and for the Biden presidency. Our Devin Dwyer was inside court and has more.
As COVID cases surge, President Biden today at the White House voiced optimism about his plan to end the pandemic emergency.
The new normal doesn't have to be. We have so many more tools we're developing and continuing to develop that can contain COVID and other strains of COVID.
The heart of the president's strategy is mass vaccination of millions more Americans, with help from two new government regulations, both at the heart of a major showdown today at the U.S. Supreme Court. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration next month will begin requiring employers of more than 100 workers to mandate vaccinations or conduct regular testing of unvaccinated workers at the company's expense. A separate policy from the Department of Health and Human Services would mandate anyone treating Medicare or Medicaid patients at 76,000 federally funded facilities be vaccinated, with only limited exceptions for religious or health concerns.
There's an expectation on the part of patients if they show up in a healthcare system for treatment, whether it's for COVID or for some other underlying condition or for treatment for surgical procedures, that they're surrounded by those that are vaccinated. We do not want to create further risk to those that are vulnerable.
The unprecedented federal rules would cover roughly 100 million Americans and offer substantial incentive, officials say, for getting the shot. But today at the nation's highest court, a coalition of Republican-led states and business groups asked the justices to put the rules on hold.
We were hearing from small business owners that they very much valued their freedom to do business their way, and they felt like this was very much an encroachment of that right and that freedom. It's Congress who's accountable to the people, not agency officials who are not elected.
The court's conservative majority appeared sympathetic to that argument.
Traditionally, states have had the responsibility for overseeing vaccination mandates.
Justice Samuel Alito saying the government couldn't force people to take a potential risk with their health they don't want to take.
I'm not saying the vaccines are unsafe. I'm not contesting that in any way. There is a risk, right? Has OSHA ever imposed any other safety regulation that imposes some extra risk on the employee?
The court's liberal justices firing back, emphatic that it's unvaccinated Americans who pose a grave risk to others around them, and that Congress gave key agencies power to intervene.
Nearly 1 million people have died. I don't mean to be dramatic here, I'm just sort of stating facts. And this is the policy that is most geared to stopping all this.
22 states already mandate COVID vaccinations for healthcare workers, but no state has issued a similar requirement for private businesses. More than 205 million Americans have been fully vaccinated, but tonight tens of millions of others who are eligible still have not received their first shot.
750,000 new cases yesterday. That's 10 times as many as when OSHA put this rule in. Is that what you're doing now, to say it's in the public interest in this situation to stop this vaccination rule with nearly 1 million new cases every day? I mean, to me, I would find that unbelievable.
The debate playing out in court is the impact of state, local, and private vaccine mandates is rippling through communities nationwide.
I stayed till I got fired. I've never left a job. I've never been fired before.
At the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota, 99% of workers are vaccinated as required, but roughly 700 were fired this week for failing to get the shot.
My views don't matter.
No,
just because
our views didn't matter.
Because I hold certain views to be true. It didn't matter.
Lawyers challenging the federal vaccine mandate for health workers warned it could decimate rural communities with staffing shortages at clinics and hospitals. But Justice Elena Kagan wasn't buying it.
Well, all the Secretary is doing here is to say to providers, the one thing you can't do is to kill your patients.
This is an issue that the justices have to see touches all of us, but whether that's going to mean that they're willing, at least a majority of them is willing to give the federal government the power to act here, I think, is a separate question. And yet, this very conservative, newly constituted court that is pretty skeptical of federal power writ large. So I think there's a good chance that one or both of these policies may be struck down.
And Devin joins me now. Devin, you were in that courtroom today, and even that chamber not immune from the impacts of this Omicron surge.
Yeah, Phil. I mean, for the first time ever, we saw almost all the justices walk into that chamber wearing masks. Only Justice Neil Gorsuch was not. And his seatmate on the bench, Justice Sonia Sotomayor, didn't even show up. She was in the building today for the arguments for work, but she didn't feel comfortable because of Omicron coming into the chamber, even in spite of the masks. And then another first for the court today, Phil. 2 lawyers arguing cases themselves tested positive for the virus. They weren't able to be there. They dialed in by phone. That's never happened before. So certainly the gravity of this moment, this surge, was not lost on the court. And then I also have to say it was pretty clear from across the bench on the left and the right that these justices weren't questioning the efficacy of the vaccines at all. In fact, Justice Sam Alito, as you heard in our piece, made pretty clear he wasn't casting any doubt there. Of course, all of the justices, Phil, were vaccinated, fully vaccinated as of last April. And we just learned this week that they've all also received their booster shots.
Yeah, and as you reported, Devin, clearly some reservations about these new federal rules. When do we expect to hear whether these mandates can go forward?
Well, the OSHA rule, that's the one for private businesses of 100 employees or more. Well, that is set to start rolling out on Monday. Now, it's just the first phase. This is the part that requires unvaccinated workers to be masked at work. The testing and vaccination component, verification component, that begins next month. So there's a little bit of time, but we do expect that as soon as Monday, we could hear from the court on that part of things. Maybe they'll issue an administrative stay to buy themselves a little more time to write. But certainly the expectation is that on both of these new sweeping rules to get Americans vaccinated, we'll hear something by the end of January. It was clear today, no matter their position on these issues, Phil, the justices were aware of the urgency of the Omicron surge and the particular threat to elderly patients, which was mentioned a number of times today, Phil.
All right, we know you'll be keeping a close eye on it for us. Devin Dwyer, thank you.
Thanks, Phil.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.